The massive view screen aboard the Eternal Light showed Earth as a small blue marble, peaceful and seemingly harmless. But ancient Counselor Vexus knew better. His crystalline form shimmered with nervous energy as he watched the readings from the primitive planet below. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice echoing through the ship's golden chamber. The other council members, all immortal beings who had lived for millions of years, gathered around him with growing concern. The energy readings from Earth made no sense. Somehow, these short-lived creatures were poking holes in the fabric of reality itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Peter Wright stood in the underground facility known as Deep Zone, staring at a screen that shouldn't exist. The screen showed impossible readings, tears in the very fabric of space-time. At 45 years old, with graying hair and steady hands, Peter had seen many strange things in his years with the Earth Defense Force, but nothing like this. "Dr. Martinez, please tell me you have an explanation for these readings," he said, turning to the quantum physicist beside him. Linda Martinez pushed her glasses up her nose and shook her head. Her dark hair was messy from running her hands through it too many times. "Commander, what we're seeing shouldn't be possible. The quantum consciousness experiments were supposed to be simple tests of human awareness. Instead," she gestured at the swirling patterns on the screen, "we're somehow affecting reality itself." In the testing chamber below them, volunteer subjects sat in meditation while machines measured their brain activity. But the machines were picking up more than just thoughts. They were detecting ripples in space-time itself. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Eternal Light's sensors detected each ripple. Counselor Vex's crystalline form pulsed with alarm colors. These humans, their consciousness is raw and untamed. They don't just observe reality. They change it by their very nature. His fellow council member, a being of pure energy named Zix, moved closer to the screen. "How is this possible? They live less than a century. They're barely aware of their own existence before they die." "That's exactly why they're so dangerous," Vex replied. "Their mortality makes them desperate, creative, unpredictable. They don't have time to learn the proper ways of manipulating reality. They just do it." Back in Deep Zone, Peter watched as another ripple of energy spread from the test chamber. The volunteer, a young soldier named Steve Rogers, had simply been asked to focus on a point in space. Instead, he had somehow created a temporary dimensional rift. Linda's instruments went crazy. "Commander, these readings. The human mind isn't just observing quantum states. It's forcing them to change. We're actually affecting probability itself." Peter leaned forward, his face illuminated by the swirling patterns on the screen. "Are you saying our consciousness can alter reality?" "More than that," Linda replied, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "We're not just altering it. We're breaking it and remaking it. Every time our test subjects focus their thoughts, they're creating micro-tears in space-time. And the tears, they're getting bigger." The Eternal Light's council chamber erupted in chaos as the latest readings came in. Vex's crystalline form now pulsed with emergency red patterns. They must be stopped. Their experiments will draw the attention of things that should not be drawn. "The humans don't understand what they're doing," another council member argued. "Perhaps we should guide them." "No," Vex's voice boomed through the chamber. "Their mortality makes them impossible to guide. They act on instinct, on emotion. They don't have centuries to contemplate each action. They just act." In Deep Zone, Peter was about to order the day's experiments ended when all the screens suddenly went dark. Then, in letters of light that seemed to float in the air itself, a message appeared. "Cease your experiments or face extinction. Your mortality makes you a danger to all existence. This is your only warning." Linda gasped. Peter straightened his back, his jaw set firm. Around them, other staff members froze, staring at the floating words. "Can we trace this?" Peter asked. Linda's fingers flew over her keyboard. "It's not a transmission, Commander. These words, they're being written into reality itself. Whoever sent this message has complete control over spacetime. Peter looked at the message again, then at the test chamber below where the volunteers sat, unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding around them. He thought about humanity's history, how every warning to stop exploring, to stop pushing boundaries, had only driven them to push harder. He pressed the intercom button. "This is Commander Wright to all Deep Zone personnel. Log and document everything about this message. Then prepare to expand our testing protocols. If someone out there thinks we need to stop, then we're definitely onto something important." In the eternal light, Vex watched the humans' response with horror. They're not going to stop. They're going to accelerate their experiments. "Should we destroy them?" Zix asked. Vex's form dimmed. "We can't. Their consciousness is already affecting too much of local spacetime. A direct attack might cause their defensive responses to tear reality apart." He paused, colors swirling through his crystalline body. "We must warn the others. The humans have become system-destroying horrors without even realizing it." As the eternal light prepared to leave Earth's system, Peter Wright stood in his office, looking out at the night sky through a reinforced window. The warning message had faded, but its implications remained. Humanity had just been noticed by immortal beings who feared them. Linda knocked on his door. "Commander, the new test protocols are ready. We've already had 12 more volunteers sign up." Peter nodded, still looking at the stars. "They think our mortality makes us dangerous. Maybe they're right." He turned to face Linda, a slight smile on his face. "But they don't understand that our mortality is what makes us human. It's what drives us to explore, to push boundaries, to achieve the impossible. And if we tear reality apart in the process," Linda asked, "then we'll find a way to put it back together," Peter replied. "That's also what humans do." As night fell over Deep Zone, the experiments continued. With each passing hour, the ripples in spacetime grew stronger. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and the universe was running away in terror. Above Earth, the eternal light vanished into deep space, carrying its warning to other immortal species. Behind it, the sensors continued to record the impossible. A young species of mortals learning to break and remake reality itself, simply because they didn't know it couldn't be done. The first contact had happened. The last warning had been given. And humanity, in its characteristically human way, had chosen to ignore both. Dr. Ashley Thompson hadn't slept in 36 hours, but she couldn't stop now. The holographic display in her lab showed something incredible, a complete map of human consciousness interacting with quantum space. She took another sip of cold coffee and leaned closer to the swirling patterns of light. "This can't be right," she muttered, rubbing her tired eyes. According to her readings, human consciousness didn't just observe quantum states, it created them. Every decision, every random thought, every moment of fear or joy rippled through reality like stones thrown into a cosmic pond. The door to her lab slid open. John Carter walked in, his military uniform crisp despite the late hour. As Earth Defense Forces head of strategy, he had learned to spot advantages in the strangest places. "Tell me you have good news, Dr. Thompson." Ashley pointed to the display. "Better than good. I figured out why the Immortals are scared of us." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show 2 different consciousness patterns. "See this one. It's a simulation of an immortal being's consciousness. Perfectly ordered, unchanging, predictable. Now look at this." She switched to the human pattern. "This is a human mind. It's chaos." John stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Chaos isn't usually considered an advantage, Doctor. In this case, it is." Ashley's fingers danced over the controls. "Immortals experience time differently than we do. They have millions of years to consider every action, to calculate every possibility. Their minds work like perfect machines." She looked up at John, her eyes bright with excitement. "But we don't have that luxury. We have to make split-second decisions. We have to guess, to take chances, to act on instinct." At that moment, Alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as an automated voice announced, "Warning, dimensional anomaly detected. All personnel to emergency stations." John was already moving. "Come with me," he called to Ashley. "Bring your data. We might need it." They rushed to the command center, where Commander Peter Wright was already coordinating the response. The main screen showed a massive Immortal vessel approaching Earth. "They're back," Peter said grimly. And this time they brought a bigger ship. The Immortal vessel was beautiful in a terrifying way, a perfect crystalline structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. It dwarfed the small research vessel that Earth had stationed in orbit. "The Stellar Explorer is requesting permission to engage," reported a communications officer. Peter hesitated. The Earth vessel was impossibly outmatched. But before he could respond, Ashley stepped forward. "Commander, let them engage," she said, quickly connecting her tablet to the main system. "I need to show you something." On the screen, the Immortal vessel fired what looked like a beam of pure mathematics, a weapon designed to rewrite the laws of physics in a localized area. It was the kind of attack that should have erased the Stellar Explorer from existence. But something strange happened. The human crew, faced with certain death, didn't respond with careful calculation. They responded with fear, with desperation, with the raw instinct to survive that only mortals could truly feel. And in that moment, reality itself seemed to hiccup. The beam of mathematical perfection hit a wall of human chaos. The Stellar Explorer's crew, without even realizing what they were doing, had collectively warped probability itself. The beam missed, hitting empty space. "Impossible," came the Immortal transmission. "They cannot simply ignore laws of physics." Ashley's display showed what had happened. "But we did," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Our crew's collective consciousness, driven by survival instinct, created a temporary probability field where the impossible became possible. We didn't break the laws of physics. We rewrote them for a split second." John Carter's military mind immediately saw the implications. "They can't predict us because we don't even know what we're going to do ourselves." In orbit, the Stellar Explorer's crew was running on pure adrenaline. Their sensors showed the Immortal vessel preparing another attack, this one designed to trap them in a bubble of frozen time. "Brace for impact," called Captain Frank Bennett. But as his crew tensed for the worst, their collective fear tore another hole in space-time. The Stellar Explorer seemed to flicker, existing in multiple places at once, before reappearing safely behind the Immortal vessel. The Immortal ship's perfect crystalline structure actually shuddered. This wasn't supposed to be possible. The humans weren't following any of the established rules of space-time combat. They were just surviving. Back in the command center, Ashley's instruments were going crazy. "Commander, look at this. Every time our crew faces death, their consciousness creates quantum ripples. They're literally scaring reality with their will to live." Peter watched as the Immortal vessel tried attack after attack, each one failing as the human crew's desperate improvisations warped probability itself. "Send this data to all Earth ships," he ordered. "Everyone needs to know what we can do." The Immortal vessel finally retreated, its perfect structure showing signs of stress from proximity to so much quantum chaos. As it fled, it broadcast a final message. "Alert to all Immortal species. Humans do not obey causality. Their mortality makes them immune to prediction. Recommend immediate evacuation of all nearby systems." John Carter smiled grimly. "They're running from us. The Immortal, all-powerful beings are running from humans. Because they finally understand what mortality means," Ashley said, still studying her readings. "When you live forever, you follow patterns. You become a pattern. But humans..." She looked up at the screen where the Stellar Explorer's crew was celebrating their impossible victory. "We break patterns just by existing." Peter Wright nodded slowly. "And now they know that our greatest weakness, our mortality, is actually our greatest strength." As news of the victory spread, more reports came in. Immortal ships were being seen all across the sector, but they weren't attacking. They were leaving, evacuating entire star systems in their rush to get away from human space. In her lab later that night, Ashley added one final note to her research. Human consciousness affects reality because we know we don't have forever. Every moment might be our last, so we make each moment count. And sometimes, we make those moments break reality itself. The Immortals had learned an important lesson. There was something more dangerous than living forever. There was living like there was no tomorrow. And humanity had turned that danger into their greatest weapon, one that sent beings of infinite power running for their lives. As the last immortal ships vanished from Earth's sensors, humanity began to realize their new place in the universe. They weren't the strongest, the wisest, or the most advanced species, but they were the most unpredictable, the most adaptable, and now possibly the most feared. The nature of mortality had been revealed. It wasn't a weakness to be overcome, but a power that even immortality couldn't match. The sky above New Mexico wasn't supposed to be purple. Katie Bishop stood in the middle of the desert, watching reality tear itself apart. Beautiful lights danced where the dimensional rift had opened, but she wasn't admiring the view. As Earth's leading dimensional rift specialist, she knew they had a big problem. "The tear is getting bigger," she said into her radio. "We need to evacuate everyone within 10 miles now." Behind her, a military convoy approached, kicking up dust. Major Richard Howard jumped out of the lead vehicle before it even stopped moving. He was tall, built like a soldier, but his eyes had the same worried look that all rift workers got eventually. "Talk to me, Katie," he said, joining her at the monitoring station. "How bad is it?" Katie pointed to her instruments. "Remember how we thought human consciousness was just making small tears in reality? Well, those small tears are joining together, growing." She switched to a different screen. "And here's the weird part. They're stable. They shouldn't be stable, but they are." Richard watched the purple sky pulse. "Because of us? Because of human consciousness?" "Exactly." Katie pulled up a 3D model on her tablet. "Humans aren't just making the tears anymore. We're somehow anchoring them. Every human mind acts like a reality stabilizer. We break it, but we also hold it together." The ground shook. Through the rift, they could see glimpses of other worlds, other dimensions. Some were beautiful, others terrifying. All of them were bleeding into ours. Back at Deep Zone Command Center, Commander Peter Wright was getting similar reports from around the world. London, Tokyo, Sydney. More rifts were opening everywhere. "Sir," a young technician called out, "we're getting a transmission from the Immortals. It's different this time." The message appeared on the main screen, but instead of threats, it showed fear. "Your species defies prediction. Our models cannot compute your actions. Reality itself bends to your chaos. How do you control it?" Peter looked at the message for a long moment. "Send them our reply. We don't control it. We ride it." In the New Mexico desert, the situation was getting worse. The rift had doubled in size, and now strange objects were falling through. Most vanished before hitting the ground, but some stayed, impossible things from other dimensions. "Major Howard," a soldier called out, "you need to see this." Richard jogged over to where a group of soldiers stood around what looked like a piece of frozen lightning. It hung in the air, humming softly. Katie scanned it with her instruments. "It's not just from another dimension," she said. "It's trying to follow our physics, but it can't quite manage it. Our reality is too messy." "Messy?" Richard asked. "Human," Katie corrected herself. "Our reality is too human. These objects come from dimensions with perfect physical laws. But here," she gestured at the purple sky, "here, human consciousness makes everything unpredictable." Suddenly, all their radios crackled with a priority message from Deep Zone. "All stations be advised. Immortal vessels detected at edge of solar system. But they're running away." Katie and Richard shared a look. Through her instruments, Katie could see why. The dimensional rifts weren't just affecting Earth anymore. They were spreading through space, carried by human thoughts and emotions. "We're contagious," Katie whispered. "Our chaos, our unpredictability. It's spreading to their systems." In orbit, Earth's defense fleet watched as hundreds of Immortal ships fled the sector. Their perfect crystalline structures seemed to shiver when they got too close to human-controlled space. Some of them were actually starting to crack. Commander Wright called an emergency meeting at Deep Zone. Dr. Ashley Thompson, John Carter, Katie Bishop, via video link, and other leaders gathered to understand what was happening. "It's not just that we can affect reality," Ashley explained, showing new data. "Our very existence is changing how reality works in this part of space. Human consciousness is rewriting the fundamental laws of physics." "Is that dangerous?" John asked. Katie's voice came through the speakers. "Yes and no. It's dangerous to the Immortals because they depend on perfect, unchanging laws of physics. But for us," she paused, looking at her latest readings, "we're actually making reality more stable in our own chaotic way. Like adding randomness to a computer program to make it more secure," Ashley added. "Our unpredictability is actually strengthening the fabric of space-time, making it more resilient." Back in New Mexico, the rift suddenly pulsed. Katie's instruments went crazy. "Major Howard, something's coming through." The air split open, and a being of pure crystal and light emerged. An Immortal, but damaged, its perfect structure cracking. "How?" it asked in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "How do you exist like this? In chaos? In uncertainty?" Richard stepped forward, his hand instinctively on his weapon, though he knew it would be useless. "We don't know any other way to exist," he said simply. The Immortal's form flickered. "Your species, you don't just break reality. You change what reality means. Your mortality, your chaos, it spreads. You're infecting everything with possibility." Katie checked her readings. The Immortal's right. Every human thought, every decision, every random choice, they all send ripples through space-time. We're not just discovering how reality works. We're changing how it works. The Immortal seemed to shudder. "We must go far beyond your influence. Your species," it looked at the purple sky, at the tears in reality that humans had made and then somehow stabilized. "Your species is a virus that makes reality itself evolve." With that, the Immortal vanished. The rift began to shrink, not because anyone closed it, but because human minds in the area were unconsciously stabilizing it, turning chaos into a new kind of order. Commander Wright received the report about the Immortal's visit. He shared it with the other leaders, and they all came to the same conclusion. Humanity wasn't just discovering its place in the universe. They were changing what the universe could be. "Send word to all stations," he ordered. "Continue the experiments. Monitor the rifts, but most importantly, don't be afraid of what we can do. Fear is what the Immortals feel. We feel something else." "What's that, sir?" a young officer asked. Peter smiled. "Hope. Because only mortals can imagine a better tomorrow." As night fell over the New Mexico desert, Katie watched the purple sky slowly return to normal. But she knew things would never really be normal again. Humanity had changed everything just by being themselves. Messy, unpredictable, and gloriously mortal. The dimensional bleeding had started. Reality itself was learning to adapt to human chaos. And somewhere out there, immortal beings fled from the species that had turned mortality into a superpower. Director Susan Wells stood in the newly built quantum weapons research facility, watching as scientists prepared for their first official test. The underground chamber hummed with energy as machines measured the emotional states of 20 volunteer soldiers. "Are you sure about this?" asked her assistant. "Using human emotions as weapons." Susan nodded, her face serious. "The Immortals gave us no choice. We either learn to control our abilities, or we risk tearing reality apart by accident." The main screen showed the test chamber where the volunteers sat in a circle. Each soldier wore a special helmet that could detect their thoughts and feelings. In the center of the circle stood a strange device, the first human-made machine designed to focus and direct emotional energy. Miles away, in a small town called Pine Grove, Daniel Martinez was walking home from work when the sky turned strange. He stopped and looked up, feeling scared. He didn't know it, but his fear was about to change everything. Back in the test facility, alarms started blaring. "Mom," called out one of the scientists, "we're detecting a massive emotional spike from outside the facility. It's affecting our readings." Susan rushed to the console. On the screen, she could see waves of fear energy coming from Pine Grove, mixing with the controlled emotions from their test subjects. The combination created something unexpected. The air itself seemed to crack. Through the cracks, they could see other worlds, other possibilities. But these weren't like the stable rifts Katie Bishop studied. These were wild, changing with each human thought and feeling. "Shut it down," Susan ordered, but it was too late. Daniel's fear had connected with the test subject's focused emotions. The mix of random and controlled human consciousness created a wave that spread through reality. Everywhere it touched, immortal technology started to break down. In orbit, Commander Peter Wright watched as reports came in from across the galaxy. Immortal ships were failing. Their perfect systems couldn't handle the chaos of human emotions. "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we're getting thousands of distress calls from the Immortals." The main screen filled with messages. "Your emotions are spreading through space. Our systems are failing. How do you stop feeling? What is this chaos?" In Pine Grove, Daniel finally made it home, his fears slowly calming down. He had no idea that his simple human emotion had just helped create a weapon that could destroy immortal civilizations. At the weapon facility, Susan and her team worked to understand what had happened. Dr. Ashley Thompson joined them via video call, her face excited despite the late hour. "Do you realize what this means?" Ashley asked. "A single human emotion, combined with focused human consciousness, can affect entire star systems. We're not just breaking reality anymore. We're remaking it with our feelings." Susan looked at the data. "But we can't control it." Daniel Martinez's random fear mixed with our test subjects' controlled emotions to create something new, something unpredictable. "That's exactly why it works," Ashley said. "The Immortals built their entire civilization on predictability, on perfect patterns. But human emotions don't follow patterns. They change, they grow, they surprise us. And now, they surprise reality itself." In space, more immortal ships were failing. Their perfect crystalline structures couldn't handle the waves of human emotional energy washing through space. Some ships simply stopped working. Others started to change, becoming something new and strange. Commander Wright called an emergency meeting. On the screen, he could see Susan, Ashley, Katie Bishop, and other project leaders. "The good news," Susan reported, "is that we've discovered our most powerful weapon yet. The bad news is that we can't really control it. Human emotions are too human." "Maybe we don't need to control it," Katie suggested. "Look at the readings. Reality itself is adapting to human chaos. We're not destroying the universe. We're teaching it to evolve." In his small house in Pine Grove, Daniel Martinez made dinner, watched some TV, and went to bed. He didn't know that his fear had helped create a weapon that sent immortal beings running in terror. He was just being human. The next day, Susan's team made an even more startling discovery. The emotional energy waves weren't just affecting immortal technology. They were changing how the Immortals themselves thought. "Their minds are starting to show signs of chaos," Ashley reported, showing brain scan data. "They're beginning to understand uncertainty, to feel doubt, to question. We're infecting them with mortality," Susan realized. Not physical mortality, but mental mortality. The ability to change, to doubt, to feel. The Immortals noticed too. Their next message was different from the others. We feel strange. We think thoughts that have no pattern. We begin to understand fear. What have you done to us? Commander Wright sent a simple reply. We showed you what it means to be alive. In the weapons facility, Susan watched as her team ran more tests. They learned that every human emotion could affect reality in different ways. Fear created defensive ripples in space-time. Hope opened paths to new possibilities. Love strengthened reality's fabric. Anger could tear through immortal barriers. Joy could heal dimensional damage. We're not weapon makers, she told her team. We're teaching the universe how to feel. The Immortals started evacuating entire sectors of space. Their perfect society couldn't survive contact with human emotions. Each human feeling, each random thought, each moment of doubt or hope or fear sent ripples through reality that changed everything they touched. Daniel Martinez never knew his role in all this. He remained just one of billions of humans whose everyday emotions reshaped the universe. Because that was the true horror that sent immortal beings running. Not that humans could destroy systems, but that they could change them simply by being themselves. As Susan prepared her report for Earth's leaders, she added one final note. The Immortals feared us because we could destroy reality. They fled from us because we could do something far worse. We could make reality unsure of itself. We could make it question, doubt, and feel. We could make it human. The weapon tests continued, but they weren't really weapons anymore. They were lessons in humanity, teaching the cold mathematics of the universe how to dance to the chaotic rhythm of mortal hearts. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, immortal beings felt fear for the first time, and understood at last why mortality might be the greatest power of all. Dr. Christopher Adams walked through the massive circular room that housed his greatest invention, the Chaos Engine. The machine looked simple, just a ring of chairs with strange helmets, all connected to a central pillar of swirling energy. But this device could focus the chaos of human consciousness into something that could reshape reality itself. All systems are ready, his assistant called from the control room. The volunteers are waiting. Chris nodded, checking his tablet one last time. They had tested small versions of the Chaos Engine before, but never anything this big. Today, they would connect 50 human minds at once, channeling their combined chaos into a single point in space. In orbit, Lieutenant Amanda Parker stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Starbreaker. The vessel had been built specifically to work with the Chaos Engine, its systems designed to ride the waves of human consciousness rather than fight them. Status report, she called out to her crew. Immortal ships detected at the edge of the system, reported her sensor officer. It's their biggest fleet yet. Amanda looked at the tactical display. Hundreds of crystalline ships approached Earth, their perfect formations looking both beautiful and terrifying. This wasn't an evacuation fleet, it was an invasion force. The main screen lit up with a message from the Immortals. We offer you a choice. Accept immortality and order, or face extinction. In the Chaos Engine chamber, Chris received the news of the Immortal ultimatum. He rushed to prepare his volunteers, 50 men and women who would risk their minds to protect Earth. Remember, he told them as they took their seats, don't try to control your thoughts. That's what the Immortals do. Just be human. Be chaotic. Be alive. Commander Peter Wright coordinated from Deep Zone Command Center. On different screens, he could see Chris with the Chaos Engine, Amanda on the Starbreaker, and the approaching Immortal fleet. They think making us immortal will solve the problem, he said to Dr. Ashley Thompson, who stood beside him. They still don't understand. Ashley nodded. Lieutenant Parker's team discovered something interesting about immortality. If we accepted it, we'd lose our chaos. We'd become like them, predictable, unchanging. Perfect, Peter said with a slight smile, and perfectly helpless against what's coming. In the Chaos Engine chamber, the volunteers put on their helmets. Chris started the power-up sequence. The central pillar of energy began to pulse with their combined consciousness. "Direct the output to the Starbreaker," he ordered. Amanda felt the change as soon as the Chaos engine connected to her ship. Reality around the Starbreaker began to bend and twist. Her crew's minds, enhanced by the engine, could reshape space itself. The Immortal fleet entered weapons range. Their ships fired beams of pure mathematics, weapons that should have erased the Starbreaker from existence. Instead, human chaos turned their perfect attacks into random possibilities. "Engine at full power," Chris reported from Earth. 50 minds, 50 sources of beautiful chaos, all working together. Amanda gave the order, "Connect all crew consciousness to the engine. Let's show them what chaos really means." The Starbreaker's crew joined their minds with the engine volunteers. Suddenly, reality wasn't just bending. It was breaking and remaking itself with every human thought and feeling. The Immortal fleet's perfect formation began to break apart. Their weapons, based on unchanging laws of physics, couldn't work in space that changed its rules with every human emotion. "They're trying to adapt," Amanda reported, watching the enemy ships attempt new tactics. But they can't. They don't know how to handle uncertainty. In the Chaos engine chamber, Chris watched the energy levels rise higher than ever before. The volunteers weren't just providing power. They were teaching reality itself how to embrace chaos. The Immortal sent another message. "How do you function in chaos? How do you survive uncertainty? Why do you choose this?" Amanda sent back a simple reply. "Because chaos is freedom. Uncertainty is hope. Change is life." The battle in space became something never seen before. The Starbreaker's crew, powered by the Chaos engine, turned their thoughts and feelings into weapons. Every human emotion rippled through space. A gunner's determination created walls in reality. A navigator's hope opened new paths through space. An engineer's curiosity made immortal technology malfunction. A medic's compassion healed tears in spacetime. The Immortal ships started to crack. Their perfect crystalline structures couldn't handle exposure to so much concentrated human chaos. Some ships simply vanished, their ordered existence canceled out by human uncertainty. Others began to change, taking on strange new forms as reality around them learned to embrace chaos. "They're retreating," Amanda announced, watching the Immortal fleet break apart. "All across the sector, they're running from what we've become." In Deep Zone, Peter Wright received reports from across space. The Immortals weren't just leaving the sector, they were abandoning entire regions of the galaxy. Anywhere human chaos might reach, they fled. Chris began powering down the Chaos engine. The volunteers were tired but proud. Together, they had proven that humanity's greatest weakness, their chaotic, unpredictable nature, was actually their greatest strength. "Sir," called one of Peter's officers, "final message from the Immortal fleet." The message appeared on all screens. "We understand now. Your mortality makes you eternal. Your chaos makes you strong. We cannot fight what we cannot comprehend. Keep your sector of space. We will trouble you no more." Amanda watched the last Immortal ships vanish into deep space. Her crew, their minds still buzzing from connection to the Chaos engine, felt something the Immortals never could. The joy of victory, the relief of survival, the pride of being perfectly imperfect. In his chamber, Chris looked at the Chaos engine. A machine designed not to control human chaos, but to amplify it. "We didn't just win a battle today," he told his volunteers. "We proved that being human, being mortal, being chaotic, these aren't weaknesses to overcome, they're strengths to embrace." Peter Wright made the announcement to all Earth forces. "The Immortals offered us perfection. We chose to remain human instead. Remember this day. It's not just a victory for Earth. It's a victory for chaos, for change, for life itself." As the celebration spread across Earth, the Chaos engine hummed quietly, its energy mixing with the thoughts and feelings of billions of humans going about their lives. Each of them added their own small bit of chaos to reality, teaching the universe that perfection wasn't the highest goal. Being alive was. 1 year after the Immortals fled, Earth had changed. The purple sky over New Mexico had become normal. Dimensional rifts appeared and disappeared like weather patterns. Humans had learned to live with chaos, and more importantly, they had learned to control it. Dr. Grace Williams stood in the new Global Dimensional Control Center, watching the hundreds of screens that monitored reality itself. As head of the Human Dimensional Defense Force, she had a big job, keeping humanity's chaos from accidentally destroying everything. Status report. She called out to her team. 3 minor rifts over Australia, reported one operator. School kids having a particularly exciting soccer match. Local stabilizers are handling it. Grace nodded. They had learned that human emotions would always affect reality. The trick wasn't to stop it, but to guide it. Like a river, chaos could either flood everything or be channeled to help life grow. In orbit, Commander Peter Wright toured the Starbreaker with a group of alien visitors. These weren't immortals. They were other mortal species who had hidden from the immortals for millions of years. So you actually choose to live with dimensional instability? Asked one alien, their 4 eyes blinking in confusion. Peter smiled. We don't just live with it. We protect reality by being unstable ourselves. Watch this. He led them to the observation deck. Below, Earth glowed blue and green, with occasional flashes of purple where reality rippled. See those ripples? He explained. That's human consciousness affecting space-time. But look closer. The aliens leaned forward. Around each ripple, reality seemed to bend and flex, but it didn't break. Instead, it grew stronger, like a muscle learning to handle more weight. We're teaching the universe how to adapt, Peter said. The immortals tried to keep everything unchanging. We're showing reality a better way. Back on Earth, in what used to be the Deep Zone facility, Dr. Ashley Thompson worked with Chris Adams to study the long-term effects of human chaos on the universe. Their lab was filled with sensors that measured things most species didn't even know existed. Look at this, Ashley said, pointing to a complex diagram. Remember how the immortals said we were infecting reality with chaos? They were right, but they didn't understand what that meant. Chris nodded, looking at the data. Reality isn't meant to be perfect. It needs chaos to grow, to evolve. Just like life itself. In her office at the Dimensional Control Center, Grace received an urgent message. A new species had arrived at the edge of human space. They were young, barely space-capable, and they were terrified. Let them approach, Grace ordered. Carefully. The alien ship entered Earth orbit. Their message was simple. We heard the immortals fled from you, that you broke reality itself. We came to see if it was true. Grace sent them the data, all of it. The dimensional rifts, the chaos engine, the way human consciousness affected reality. But she also sent them something else. An invitation. We're not destroyers, she told them. We're guardians. Reality needs chaos to survive, and that's what we provide. Would you like to learn? The young species accepted. Soon, others came too. Earth became a strange kind of school, where mortal species learned to embrace their own chaos, their own ability to affect reality. Peter Wright watched from the Starbreaker as more alien ships arrived, not to fight, but to learn. The immortals thought we were a virus, he said to his crew, but we're more like antibodies, keeping reality healthy by challenging it. Grace's team developed new ways to train other species. They learned that each mortal race affected reality differently. Some created beautiful patterns in space-time. Others could heal dimensional damage. A few could even predict where rifts would appear. But humans remained unique. Their chaos was pure, unstructured, driven by emotions and dreams, and the simple desire to survive. We're not special because we're powerful, Grace explained to a group of alien students. We're special because we're perfectly imperfect. We break things just by existing, but we also fix them by refusing to give up. In the remnants of the Chaos Engine Chamber, now a museum, Chris showed visitors the machine that had helped save Earth. But it wasn't really the machine, he told them. It was what the machine taught us about ourselves, about the power of being mortal, of being uncertain, of being alive. Ashley's research revealed something even more amazing. The chaos humans spread through the universe wasn't destroying it. It was protecting it from a worse fate. Reality needs change to survive, she explained to Earth's leaders. The Immortal's perfect, unchanging universe was slowly dying. Our chaos is like a fever that kills the disease. A year and a day after the Immortals fled, Earth received one final message from them, sent from the far edge of the galaxy. We see now what we could not see before. Your chaos spreads life. Your uncertainty spreads hope. Your mortality makes the universe immortal. Guard it well. Grace posted the message in the control center as a reminder of humanity's new role. They were the guardians of chaos, the protectors of change, the teachers of uncertainty. Peter Wright retired from active command but continued to teach new crews. The Immortals feared us because we could destroy reality. He would tell them. They fled from us because we could save it. In schools across Earth, children learned to control their emotional impact on reality, not by suppressing their feelings, but by understanding them. Every laugh might create a tiny rift. Every tear might bend space-time. But that was okay. That was natural. That was human. Chris and Ashley eventually married, their wedding causing such joy that it created a stable dimensional rift that showed glimpses of all possible happy futures. No one tried to close it. And in the Global Dimensional Control Center, Grace Williams watched over it all. She saw the ripples of human chaos spreading through the galaxy, teaching reality itself how to dance to the music of mortal hearts. We are the guards of reality, she wrote in her final report. Not because we're perfect, but because we're not. Not because we live forever, but because we don't. We guard reality by changing it, by challenging it, by making it grow. We guard it by being human. The purple sky over New Mexico continued to shimmer. Reality continued to bend and flex around human thoughts and feelings. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, immortal beings looked back at the chaos they had fled from and finally understood that perfection was never the answer. Life was, in all its beautiful, chaotic, mortal glory.